Hi guys, welcome to the Gilbert Public Schools Professional Growth and Development YouTube live stream show, episode number 3. Today we are going to be joined by Wendy Peterson. It was going to be Julia Celsi, but she had a last minute conflict that she just couldn't get out of. And so we are a team here at Professional Growth and Development, and we totally have each other's backs. So Wendy jumped in and she's going to be going through some topics with me today. And so we're just really excited to have you guys here and hope that you guys enjoy the live stream and the chats today that we're going to be talking about. So of course, I always have announcements and they're always the same, but I really just want to keep promoting our professional growth and development remote playlists and that whole site, the tips and tricks. I think you guys would get a lot from those screen side chats. The mini PDs are really good. And they're in that employee info hub. So I have it right there. It's scrolling on the screen. Okay. And don't forget, you have to hit us up on social media. So we've got Instagram now, we've got Twitter, we've got Facebook. I feel like I'm so annoying right now on all of those things because like literally I feel like I'm posting all the time. So I'm sorry if you're like, Britt, just stop posting. Like I can't handle it. I'm trying to teach. Okay. So I get that. But it's at GPS Prof Growth. So all of them are under the same thing. New to our Instagram this week is a link tree. So if you go into our Instagram in our profile, you'll see a link tree link, and that will actually take you to all of our different sites. So if you are a GPS employee, you'll be able to click right into our Facebook group, right into our Twitter. If you're Twitter, anybody can get into, right into the remote tips and tricks hub. You will also be able to go right into quick links for the ties because they have awesome webinars, and then also just to our regular website. So that's new to our Instagram this week. It's something I was working on. So that's an announcement I wanted to make for you all, just so you guys know that that's there. And that's for your convenience. So if you're not able to get to those sites very easily from your phone or your mobile device, you can now go to our Instagram, go to our link tree, and click, and it'll take you right there without you having to try to click too many places in your Safari or your Google. Okay, so again, welcome. Okay, I'm so excited that we're doing this for a third time, and very, very excited. Another thing I want to just kind of remind you guys of. This is from my husband who watches a lot of YouTube videos, and he's recommended to me that you have to have them subscribe. Like when they're like done, or if they like it, have them subscribe to your channel and have them click the little bell that's underneath your screen right now. So there should be a subscribe button and a bell. If you click the bell, what will happen is it'll give you a reminder of when our next live streams are, or if I post a new tutorial to our YouTube channel, it'll actually give you a quick reminder. So those are two things that I wanted to also do as part of our announcements today, because that's something I haven't really said before. I always feel weird being like, please subscribe. But if you want to, see the new content and know when the new content is available, those are the two things you want to do. So it should be right there at the bottom of your screen. And it should say subscribe, or it should have a little bell. Once the bell is grayed out, that means you're good to go. And you are able to get alerts and things like that when we post new content. So our thoughts this week in our department, we were kind of chatting, and we feel like coming out of week 4, going into week 5, what are we seeing, hearing from friends, family, other teachers? We check our social media often, our personal and the professional social media, and we're seeing a lot of need for, I just can't balance all of this. I have people telling me, look, I've just thrown it all away and been like, hey kids, it's like early summer. Like I've had parents say that to me. I've had parents say, I want to do well, but I honestly can't teach them this stuff. Like I don't know how to teach because they're not educators. And, I've they're busy with a lot of other things that are going on in their lives. They're working from home. They may have lost their jobs and are dealing with that. And I think we just want to help our teachers find balance. And we also want to help the students and the parents find a good balance going into week 5. Okay. Because I feel like at week 5, hopefully they know where to go and where to find things. If not, maybe that's a pipe dream. I don't know. But our goal today is to talk about 2 different ways that we think might help in creating this balance for everyone. Okay. Again, I mentioned earlier that I was going to be joined today by Miss Wendy Peterson, who is my dear friend and colleague, who I love very much. Julia will hopefully do next week's, but she did have a event that she just couldn't get out of, just something that came up quickly, and she just couldn't come on today. So I'm going to welcome Wendy into the studio, and there she is.
I love that it said that I was backstage. It brought me all the theater back to me.
You got all the feels. You're like,
I did.
Yeah, this is amazing. Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh, we've got so many people here today with us. We've got Suzanne, Megan. Hi, we see you guys. MJ, Leanne, and Danielle. Thank you guys so much for coming. And we hope that you guys all use the chat. Feel free to post questions, post comments, also post experiences that you're having personally or you are hearing about in terms of this balance that people seem to be really, really struggling with. But yay, I'm so excited to see all of you guys in our comments. That's awesome. And I love this comment already. Thank you for this. Wendy is my tech support superhero. And I mean,
thanks, Danny.
If that doesn't tell you what we've learned as a whole group, I mean, love you, Wendy, right? But you would even say yourself that tech was not your thing before this. And now she's rocking it. And thank you so much for saying I rock this. We are trying to get better at it. It's super fun. Literally, this is like my highlight of my week because I feel like I talk to people that aren't my kids and husband. I love them so much, but oh my goodness, I miss you guys. We miss teaching you guys in person and seeing all your faces. So anyways, I love that. Oh, and hi, Amber. Amber just came on as well. Amber Franco, hi. Okay, so our first topic today, okay, is how social emotional learning is even more essential than ever in a remote learning environment. And we are talking not just for the kids. And I read this really awesome article this week, and I know Wendy read it as well. I will link everything in our website in the Employee Hub. I'll put all of our stuff. I made a folder that says YouTube channel in web resources. So if you go into the Employee Hub and there's that web resource bank, there'll be a YouTube channel folder in there that you guys can access everything. But it was talking about how we always want, as a teacher, a curriculum for social emotional learning. And this guest speaker, her name was Wendy Turner. Okay. She said, no, it's actually easiest if you just do it yourself. You just model it for the kids. Yeah, just do it. And she referred to CASEL, and she uses CASEL competencies in her classroom for social emotional learning. But she's like, I don't give them a packet on it. You know, I mean, I think it's so funny. It reminds me of how we do digital citizenship as like a unit. And right now, more than ever, kids are learning digital citizenship. It's like trial by fire. Like you have to be immersed in it, in the environment, I think, for it to click, right? And so Wendy Turner, if you are interested in how she does social emotional learning in her classroom, even for next year, she's on Twitter at Wendy M. Turner. And so I'm going to let that scroll a little bit while we talk about some of the things that I learned from this article that I thought were super important. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. And it's going to move Wendy and I over there. And so this is the competencies that she was talking about that I found really helpful. Okay. And she was talking about And this is for us as teachers. This is for us as teachers to model to kids so that even in remote learning, when you guys are doing those WebExes with your kids, those meetings with your small groups, or maybe you're doing a one-to-one, how do we model this social emotional learning? Every article I've said kids are going to come out of this maybe a little bit behind in academics, but hugely behind socially, emotionally. They are in a very weird world. My own daughter this week was crying. She said, "Mom, I miss my friends. I miss playing with them. And I said, well, we can FaceTime Aubrey tomorrow. And she goes, I don't want to FaceTime Aubrey. I want to play with Aubrey. I think they're going to come out of this needing this social emotional learning more than ever. I don't know what you think about that too, Wendy, but I mean, I know you had some experience with maybe your granddaughters too.
Absolutely. Everybody I know with kids, those kids are just missing their friends. And of course they are, because even as an introvert, I'm missing in-person contact with people. And Britt and I met a little bit earlier on here just to touch base. And it was so good to see Britt's face. But what I really wanted was to give Britt a great big hug.
Yeah.
And this is going to sound weird, but see her and smell her and touch her and be there physically. And we can't do that. And as adults, most of us have some strategies, and I know we're going to be talking about those, but most of us have some strategies to deal with it. Kids don't have those yet.
No. And I think even some teachers, I think we know what SEL is. We've kind of heard of it, but to do like a deep dive into it, especially right now when we're trying to figure out how to balance all of this stuff in our life, is super important. Because, I think I posted last week, I tried to post something kind of interesting or funny, or I don't know, just some type of topic for us on our Facebook feed. And I said, what are you doing for extra self-care? And a lot of people said, oh, I'm taking a bath, I'm taking walks. But some people said nothing. And I was like, no, like you have to have some extra self-care right now. And I have a husband who literally will just like lock me in the room. And so that kids can't get to me, so I can just watch my one show that I just want to watch that kids can't see. And so that's my extra self-care, But we're going to go ahead and look at this CASEL model, which I think is really important. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in the website bank, in the web source bank. But the first one is self-awareness for social emotional learning. Remember, when we're talking about these today, we want you to live it, be vulnerable, and model it for your kids through the screen. We want you to reach them. And even though you can't hug them, right? You can't high five them. How can you help them be a little bit more self-aware? And so this week, as I read the article and it was in my mind, and we were trying to kind of come up with how do we help teachers and students and parents right now? I thought, what am I not self-aware of that I should be? And so the first thing that came to mind is board games, because we are home right now. Wendy, everyone, I am confessing, I don't like them. I don't. I know they're good. I know they're good for brains, and I know I should play them with my kids. I understand is not my thing. I think it's because I didn't grow up playing with them very much. And also I'm just super competitive. And if I'm not good at it, I don't like it. So here's what I have to do. So that's self-awareness. And luckily my husband's a board gamer, thank goodness, because he's been playing a lot of games with the kids. But I have forced myself to sit down because I have to reframe it. So I think the most important thing that the article said was, in self-awareness, once you figure out what you're not negative, like what you're not great at, you kind of have to do a reframe. And I think for a lot of kids right now, something is happening in their life that's negative. Maybe it's missing their friends. How can we reframe that for them? So for me, I was like, okay, let me reframe this. Right. This is quality time with my family.
Right.
This is helping my kids learn. I need to sit here and I need to play this game.
You can do it. I think too, that when we think about ourselves, most of us go one of two ways. We either see ourselves with rose-colored glasses, like, dang, I'm perfect, or the opposite way, like there's nothing good about me. I'm not smart. I'm not talented. And I do have people say those things about themselves a lot. So I think we need to look realistically and know too that when we have weaknesses, we're aware of them, but that they don't overwhelm us. Also in the text, and I love it as much as Britt does, it talks about having a positive outlook. And to me, in all of this, that positive outlook is probably the most important. But then I also loved, and I want to quote her directly, she said, however, that this positive outlook doesn't mean that we dismiss or diminish whatever's happening. So I'm sure you've had a time in your life where you've been in some kind of angst and someone said, oh, you'll be okay, or buck up, or pull yourself up by the bootstraps. And if you're like me, you want to slap them. Right. I'm not doing okay right now.
Right.
So you don't dismiss or diminish it. You acknowledge it. And then, like you were saying, Britt, flip it around to be something more positive.
Right.
And I also, if I can, I wanted to mention, I put out on Facebook a while ago and I got it from Britt. It's called Woebot, WOEBOT. And one of the things that Woebot has me do is write down my negative thoughts, and then I have to rewrite them in a positive way. And I have found that to be really powerful too.
I think it's felt like, I'm going to put it up. It's like this, right, Wendy?
Yes. Yep, that's it. And it's free.
It's free, and it is like your own little personal psychiatrist or psychologist, I guess, maybe. But it does check in with you, and it's crazy. It's been tested by psychiatrists. It's been around since the 80s. Now it's an app, and it is called Woebot. So it's really great to check in, and I think it's great. I use it too, and I like it. Right, it makes me journal the positives, what happened positive today, and that really does help. Okay, and we'll link that too in the show comments as well later. I'll write that down to do that for sure. We've had so many people join us. I'm so excited to see all of you guys. We've had some comments that I just wanted to quickly go over. Megan said, we have allowed our kids to use that Facebook Kids chat. So Facebook does have a messenger just for kids that's safe for kids. And that's such a great idea. And there are games and silly things for them in there to interact with their friends. So what a great idea, Megan. Thanks for putting that out there because they're missing their friends. And that's a great idea. I forgot about that. My daughter's been using Marco Polo, but I didn't know Facebook had games in there. So maybe I'll switch her from Marco Polo to Facebook Messenger for kids for her friends because she misses playing with them so much. So, and then we also had, Megan also said she hates puzzles. So I get it. Like not anybody, like not everybody has their thing. You just have to have that self-awareness, right? I think that's the first step. Model that for kids. When you get into that WebEx meeting with them, say, guys, this week, I had to do puzzles with my kids, or my husband, but I had to do it because he loves it. And I'm self-aware that I don't love it, but I had to reframe it as quality time together. That was something he also liked to do. Danielle has a question. Any suggestion for us helpers? How do we help those that could be teammates that we have feeling really struggling? And so I was going to throw that to you, Wendy, if you wanted to.
I thought you might be throwing it to me so you could take a deep breath. Danny, first of all, it's a great question, but it is a very difficult question. I'm a helper, maybe a little bit on the codependent side even. And I have had teachers, Gilbert teachers this week texting me or calling me or WebExing me in tears. Beside themselves, upset. I can't do this. Almost very, a little has to do with the actual teaching. It has to do with all of the other things that are around us.
Yeah.
And on one of my screen side chats that we have on the Employee Hub, I talk about how normally I'm the person who's pushing just okay is not okay. You need to be a rock star teacher and you need to start working on it now. Right now, my philosophy is good enough is good enough.
Yep.
So yes, we want to work. Yes, we want to do good things for kids. Yeah. But there is so much else going on. So when these people have reached out to me, I reminded them that good enough is good enough. I've reminded them that nothing is more important than their physical, mental, emotional health, and that nothing is more important than their family, spouse or significant other, kids, whatever it is. Those have to be our number one priorities at this point. And with this text, with self-awareness being number one, you have to be aware of everything that's going on. You have to be introspective. So for myself, I've noticed I'm really tired this week, where I haven't been tired the last couple weeks. So if I need to rest, I try to rest. Now, I know those of you with littles, this is a bigger deal, which is why I admire Britt's husband so much. He sometimes just says, you're going to go take a nap, and closes her in the bedroom and says to the kids, do not bother mommy. We have to figure out, we have to be self-aware for the self-care. So Danny, back to your question, talk them through, talk them down, reassure them, everything's going to be okay. This is not going to be how the world is for the rest of our lives.
And Suzanne said, I try to show my vulnerability when I'm recording myself on Google Classroom, that she doesn't do any retakes. She just does it like it is. So if there's mistakes, they like can watch her fumble through those mistakes. I don't do it. I don't either, Suzanne. Like when I record these tutorials for you people, it is what it is. My latest one I sang in, and it was one take, and it was not my best singing day. And honestly, I just rolled with it. So, I think we have to model it, and in the classroom. So we're talking about remote learning, and that's where we're at. But one day we're going to get back to face, right? And we got to model social emotional learning. So that self-awareness, right? And then the next one was self-management. And I really thought this one was great. How do you manage those emotions? Some of you guys have taken the rigor relevance framework where I did like the brain-based learning, and we talked about the brain model of the hand, and that if this is your brain, okay, your emotional cortex is in the center, and everything else that helps you like learn and understand and regulate those emotions is the top part of your brain. If something happens in your life, you can flip your lid, okay? That means your emotions are ruling you. You can't self-manage when your emotions are ruling what you're happening. This has happened all the time right now because of this quarantine. I think I've been in quarantine since spring break, especially because I'm chronically ill. So I knew as soon as the warning came out, I needed to stay home before the actual stay home order came. I was staying home earlier than everybody else. And I think, I'm so sick of making food and like, I will like flip my lid. I'm like, everyone just eat cereal. Like, I can't do it.
That's okay. That's okay.
And that's okay. Like,
eat cereal.
You have to have self-management. And like Wendy, like how many times have we just flipped our lids? I mean, all of us are doing it right now, and it is normal, right? But I think having those skills to know that that's normal and recognize it's okay, that's managing yourself, right? And we got to show that our kids that too, okay?
So we can feel it and move on. And another one of the things from this particular article that I loved was she said you have to name it to tame it.
Oh,
and it reminds me of you got to help me out there, the movie with the emotions. I think it was Disney where
Inside Out.
Inside Out. I loved that movie, and I used that with my granddaughter. She saw it when she was about 5, and I used that with her. Let's talk about which of those emotions you're feeling now. One of the interesting things that you should know with the name it to tame it is that students from poverty backgrounds or students where there are mental health issues in their backgrounds often can't name any emotions other than happy, sad, mad. And we have way more emotions than that. Like, what kind of sad is it? What kind of happy is it? And so that naming it to taming it, let's talk about what is this emotion exactly, is much healthier, and we can help kids with that. We can help them move beyond those 3, sad, happy, mad.
Well, and I even showed my daughter the kid-friendly video. There's a kid-friendly video of the flip the lid. she did anatomy last week and they had some other brain video. And as the mom, I'm like, I'm just going to have her watch this one because it's so relevant for her right now, because she realizes, Mom, my lid slipped. Like, I just emotionally can't deal with it. I mean, she's 7. She doesn't know what's happening, So Amber mentioned that being in quarantine is tough, even for some of us adults. Yeah, that's why we're doing this today. We need each other. That's why we do this once a week, just to analyze our thoughts and feelings. And our kids are learning to analyze those things too. And we need to, help them when we get back. But we also need to help them now as much as we can. That is for sure our goal, is to somehow through this screen figure out how do we get this SEL, social emotional learning, demonstrated through us verbally to them, so that they can have those words to express to the teacher or a parent or a guardian, right? Because I think if we model it even ourselves, I think that will help them. The next one. Oh, go ahead, Wendy.
It came to me that the year that I got a divorce, as I was going through it, I received permission from my principal to tell my freshmen what was going on, not the nitty gritty details, but just basically this was what was happening in my life.
Right.
And I told each of my freshman classes, and they were so empathetic and kind. And that year, Robert Bircher, principal at Settlers Point, was one of my students. And he ran up and gave me a big hug and all. But at the end of that year, I had so many notes written to me and notes in the yearbook saying, you showed me how to handle something difficult. I said to them, there might be days when I'm kind of sad or I'm kind of distracted, but I want you to know, even though this is going on, I'm going to come here and be the best teacher I can be, but I also will ask right now for your forgiveness and your patience.
Right.
They were awesome. And so many said, I learned how to handle really hard things by watching you. You felt your emotions, but you also moved through them and beyond them.
And they need to see that. I mean, that's perfect modeling. And we had a couple of new people join us. So just a reminder, we're just talking about social emotional learning. That is not just for the kids. It's for us as well, especially right now. And I think it's great for us to keep modeling for those kids in the classroom, but also remotely. So the next one she talked about was social awareness. And I had a really big aha moment this week. I had several direct messages for me. So I posted last week on my Facebook and Twitter and all my personal social media to people, how is this going for you? So I was getting responses not just from Gilbert, but from Chandler parents and Tempe and Kyrene and all my friends who are all over, and even in different states. And overwhelmingly, it was all the parents were like, I am so overwhelmed. But I also had some private direct messages, and I was not socially aware of what my posts that I was doing with Cameron were, how they were making people feel. And I had some nasty grams, but I also had some that I really felt were like, hey, I really didn't think this through. And I had one parent say, like, I like everything you're doing with your daughter, and I really appreciate you posting it. And that was my intention, right? My intention was, hey, this is my job. My job as an instructional specialist is to take things and make them hands-on and make them learning experiences. So I was actually really excited to do that for my daughter. And she's said to me so much, like, I love you, Mom. Thanks so much for doing all this stuff for me. And that has been really good for us as, like, I think a mother-daughter bond. But I was posting stuff online, little snippets of what we were doing, because I thought I was actually in the empathy meter over here. I really felt like I was helping. And this is Wendy Turner's, okay, from what we're talking about. I thought I was caring, okay? And a lot of people online just thought I was focusing only on myself. And actually, I was hurting other people. I had parents that are like, you're making me feel completely inadequate, because I have a 9th grader, a 6th grader, a 3rd grader, and I can't do all those activities with each of them. So I don't feel good watching those videos. That was a week I didn't have that social awareness that they're talking about as step 3 for social emotional learning. I didn't even think about that. Like in my mind, I was like, oh, so parents could see this and maybe try to do this with one of their kids. I only have the one. Like I can't even imagine, like for parents that have all these kids, like you're doing all of this work. I'm so sorry. Like my empathy meter was just totally off. I've got the 3-year-old that I'm trying to entertain, but I don't have this multitude of kids. And I love that she puts this empathy meter up in her classroom, Wendy, and go ahead and talk about what she does and how she uses it. It's so cool.
Well, so they all start off right there in the center where it says focused on yourself only. But then she has you see those little hearts that are over there on the empathetic side. They get to move them as they see people in the class being kind and supportive.
And they're magnets. She's got magnet ones. Yep.
Yeah. That they're being kind and supportive and all those kinds of things. Or of course, if people aren't being that way, then it moves to the other side of the empathy meter. And so students become aware of what empathy looks like, sounds like, feels like, and they want to get over to the empathy side. Empathy can be developed. I think some people are more empathic than others naturally, but it can be developed. And to really step back and think, how might this affect these people or these people? Some people might say, oh, well, people need to not be so sensitive or something like that.
Yeah, we had actually a good response from Joy. She says, I have thoughts on that. She's like, doesn't your intention matter more than the response of those who are under their own stress? Absolutely. Like I didn't take any personal offense to it because I know everybody's under levels of different stress right now. I still continue posting them because I've had a lot of great response from people that they love it and they want me to send them the whole videos and, all that stuff. But I also, when I explain things now, I think in those little videos, I think I also want to make sure that I am giving a range, I think, of help too. But I think that's a great question. And, yes, in some of the nasty grams that I got, it was like, if you don't like it, like, I'm so sorry, but this was not my intention. And she was like, well, you're just thinking you're mom of the year. And I was like, well, that's not also my intention. So, maybe you just don't follow me anymore. Just click the unfollow button and we're good. But I think that is something that when we're talking about social emotional learning and we're in this social awareness, that was something that immediately came to my mind that I wanted to express like with you guys, just like I would hope that you would express with maybe your students. If something was going on in your digital classroom that you needed to address, that maybe they aren't being socially aware when they're in a class discussion, maybe because the digital citizenship just isn't processing. Okay. The next one was relationship skills. And I liked that she said that you basically need two. You need listening and connection. And that you basically that's what you need in any group assignment. And naturally, group work and teamwork, which obviously Wendy and I are both advocates of, in the classroom and out of the classroom, as much as you can do it, you need to have the students being able to listen, right? And they need to have a connection to each other. So that was what she was talking about in relationship skills. Do you have anything to add to that on that one, Wendy?
Yeah, one of the things she talked about, and it doesn't apply to our situation right now with remote learning, but it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Britt, about how we have to model these things for students. And the author talked about how when the custodian would come into her room to empty the trash after they'd had their morning snack, the teacher always said, good morning, whatever the person's name was. Thank you so much for helping to take care of us, and acknowledging that person in front of the student. I see so many people with these relationship skills look at some people like they're not really human. Sometimes this is a server at a restaurant. Sometimes it is a custodian. And I think we have to model those social skills. Um, my mom is famous for sort of like talking to everybody, and I've picked up on that trait, so that when I go into QT and am paying for my Diet Coke, I make a connection with the person who just rang me up. And so, although that's not directly related to school, I think kids have to see that we're always trying to make those connections and not be blind to all the people that are in our lives. And I know that I've seen teachers do this with kids unintentionally. 99.9% of the time it's unintentionally. But that some kids are easier to interact with than others, right?
Yeah.
Some kids are more likable than others. But as a teacher, you develop relationship skills by forging connections with all students.
Yeah.
Kind of went off on a tangent there, Britt. Sorry.
No, you're fine. This is what this is. This is why it's live.
Oh, good. That's fun.
Oh, that's fun. And the last one was responsible decision making, which I was like, well, okay. I thought I would have that skill by the time I was like 30, and maybe I have it, sort of. I don't know.
Right now, especially responsible decision making
right.
But
I have an experience when I was at a different school, a different district, where a teacher came in and pulled the headphones out of my students' ears while they were working on an assignment. I was allowing them to listen to music. And she looked at that student and she said, "Who let you have those in your ears?" And he was like, "Miss Fingold." And she looked at me with this face and was like, "Our school policy is that they cannot listen to anything and blah, blah, blah." Okay. Let's talk about responsible decision making, because people, I wanted to excuse me, this is my classroom and you better get, I was real upset. But I modeled for my students the idea of, you know what, let's just take a moment and Johnny, go ahead and put those back in your ears. And I'm going to talk to this teacher outside in the hallway real quick about what's kind of going on between the school's expectations and my expectations of you. Guys, my face was probably like beet red. Like, I was so angry. But I think modeling for my students that I had to be self-aware. I had to have self-management. I needed to know, I had, build this relationship. I had to make a responsible decision in that moment. I couldn't just fly off the handle. And even though I wanted to, I didn't. And she says in her article for this specific section, what am I trying to do? Is this helpful? And is this necessary? And I think those are three great things for you guys to think about when you guys are developing these remote learning lessons. What am I trying to do? Is it helpful? And is it necessary right now? Right? What's necessary for you guys to be teaching right now? Okay. I think that's great in modeling that for kids. Okay. I am paring this down for you so that it is manageable for you. That shows them so much that you care. And that's going to help their social and emotional learning at this point. They're in this for week 5. At first, it was probably exciting to see everybody online, right? And now it might not be as cool and exciting to see everybody online. And so she has this thing, and I think Wendy just loves it. Okay.
A lot.
Well, and I should do this more often too, but let's be honest, my brain will blow past this too fast. But Wendy, you go ahead and talk about it.
Well, and this is what she uses with her students, but I think it's so important for all of us. Stop. Most of us want to just immediately react and jump on something. And then she wants us to think. And Britt and I were talking earlier, that thinking doesn't necessarily mean 15 seconds or 2 minutes. A couple weeks ago, for me, it was about 36 hours. So something happened. I stopped. I thought, almost said I thinked. Ooh, I thought for a day and a half. And then I was able to make the decision. This could be as fast as stop, think, decide. But you have to have those breaks in there to regulate your decision making. I've been trying that at home. Britt, since you've been so vulnerable today, I've been trying that at home with food. Like, oh, I'm going to have some ice cream, or my son just brought crumbled cookies. I'm going to go have one of those. If I stop instead of just.
Oh, we just lost Wendy. She's coming back.
Right. If I go, am I really hungry? I mean, is this about feeding myself? Is this about stress? What is this about? Then I tend to make a decision that is more responsible.
Right. Yeah. And I think, I mean, I stop. I think too fast because I want a decision quickly. So I think this would even be a great practice for me, with even Cameron's work, when she gets work each week and just looking over it and just being like, no, just think what is necessary right now and what is helpful for her going into maybe second grade. I've never taught first grade, but I sure am now. So that was our first topic today. And we just wanted you guys to just see that. And we really wanted you guys to also model it. We want you to model it as best as you can through the screen, just kind of like we just did. Right, Wendy?
Well, and there's nothing that we're doing right now that is as important as connecting with students. And be aware, because I had somebody contact me, be aware that if you have siblings at your school and one teacher's contacting a sibling, every day, and the other teacher maybe not at all, or once every couple of weeks, be aware of that, because there's a little girl in our district who thinks her teacher doesn't like her because there's been very little contact. Now, I'm not saying you have to rev it up and be contacting kids every single day. Please know that. That is not my intention. But being, as Britt went through this list from the article by Wendy Turner, having those relationship skills and the social awareness of what people might need is very important. And that has been a clear message from the district. The message isn't, oh, you don't have to teach, don't worry about that. But the message is making sure that kids are okay and are feeling cared about and loved. That is the very most important. And by the way, that's K-12. So please don't think if you're like a 10th grade teacher, they don't need as much love as they all need it right now.
Yep. And even though they've got their phones that help them connect a little bit, they still miss their seeing their friends at lunch, right? And having interactions in class. I don't think they thought they could do this really easily. I think because of the one-to-one in the higher grades, they're like, well, we use our computers in Google Classroom. And I think motivating them to get on, I think the social and emotional vulnerability will help motivate them. They might want to see you because they know that you're going to talk to them like a real person. Like you're not just going to teach the lesson. You're going to kind of open up a little and then teach the lesson.
Can we talk about Suzanne's comment?
So I just wanted to put this up quickly because Danny said this is an author she uses in her classroom. And then Suzanne just said, making contact is hard when all students do not join. I mean, I know some high school kids, like there's maybe one or two.
Yeah.
That join.
And I just had a WebEx meeting with my mentor pathway teachers right before this one. And these are teachers who are either new to the profession or new to Gilbert. And that was one of the frustrations, like I have 5 kids coming on and that's it. And then a teacher called me the other night, one of the most wonderful teachers I know. And she's like, I've called the kids, I've called the parents, I've emailed the kids, I've emailed the parents. She said, I'm starting to feel like I'm harassing them. And the analogy I used with the group earlier today was you start feeling like a bill collector. Like, oh no, here comes Wendy Peterson again. Hi, don't answer the phone, don't answer the door. And
Yeah.
so there is a balance, but for most teachers, it's so hard because, and I know Suzanne so well. Suzanne wants every single one of her kinders there and with her and doing it. And to let that go is difficult at this time, but you also can't run yourself ragged. So to the teacher who called me, I think it was yesterday, one of the things that I said to her was like
Mhm.
make that contact and then let it go for a week and a half or 2 weeks. Don't
Yeah.
bug them. We just don't know what's happening in that home, and we can't. And I know Suzanne isn't doing this, but we can't make assumptions on why they're not participating. I know if I was still in the classroom, I would take it really personally. Like they don't want to see me, they don't want to learn from me.
Right.
But yeah, it's so not about us right now. It's all about what's happening in their homes and in their lives.
It's about
So,
that emotional piece. I think a lot of it is part of it.
right.
For maybe the older kids, they were just already checked out. And so they're like, woo, totally checked.
Yeah.
But I like Alice, what she said. And when you do let it go for the few weeks and not harass them, don't feel like you're giving up on them.
Yeah.
I think
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you, Alice. That's super helpful. I totally agree with that. Because, I can imagine I would want to see all my kids. Like I would be like, let's just talk online. Let's do it. And then for like one to show up or two to show up, then it's awkward. Then you're like, oh, hi.
Right.
Talk about. But yeah, I think, things are changing since the quarantine. And I think education's going to rapidly be changing as well. And I think, we've got to, I think we, over everything, and I think we've said this several times, we've got to just be prepared for what we're going to get with these kids when they come back emotionally. Okay. My daughter's first instinct, she was like, when I see my friends again, Mom, we're just going to get in this big group hug. We're all just going to hold each other. And I was like, I don't know if they're going to allow you to do that. See, but that was my thought was, what if it's still going to be like, no, you have to wear masks to school and you
can't touch each other.
That's a whole other level that we don't know,
Well, and for people like me who hug strangers,
yeah, that's gonna be
let alone my friends.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch just because we're on a time, and Wendy and I can talk about anything forever. So just so you all know that. But today our topic 2, after the social emotional, is not just for kids, it's for us too, and for us in our lives, and for us also to model to kids. Our topic number 2 is how the pause button and the pause breath of life can take some pressure not only off of us and students, but also off of the parents. Because if I got anything else off of that last week's live stream and then comments and feedback afterwards was, I am a parent and I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I want to do stuff for my kid and I don't know. And so a problem that we've been seeing, and a problem that actually my own daughter has had, is if you get you a lesson and your intention is, I'm giving them this lesson and it's 30 minutes long of Screencastify. My daughter can't watch that for 30 minutes. Okay. So she literally just like
goes. Well, no more than she could listen to the teacher for 30 minutes straight in a real classroom.
Right. So Wendy, I was going to have, turn this topic over to you for a little while and just talking about like the power of the pause. And Julia did a screenshot chat on it 2 weeks ago, and it was really good. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. And obviously this is a topic that Julia was going to really head up, but Wendy's going to take over.
Because this is really, and I talk about it so often in my classes that I teach, it's the wait time. So just because you're teaching remotely doesn't mean you no longer have wait time. And so when I watched Julia's video, it was like, oh, how come I didn't think about this? So all kids, even the littles, can be taught to use the pause button. So if they're watching a video of you teaching, then you say at some point, I want you to do this and this and this, or perhaps just I want you to do this, and then this little teeny tiny thing. Press, and then you direct them. Press the pause button. At which point they go onto their computer and pause. You, while you're recording, just stop for enough time for them to get to the pause button, and then they come back when they're done, and you teach a little bit more, and then the pause button again. Julia's, I think, said to the kids, here's what you're going to need. You're going to need a pencil and some paper and something else. Okay, press the pause button while you go get those things. And so it was beautifully laid out. And if you've taken any of our classes, we often refer to this as the teacher tango. We did not make that up. Some teachers at Highland High did. So if they're watching, I don't want to be in trouble with them. But it's that I'm leading and then you're leading. I'm leading and then you're leading. And that pause button gives them the wait time and the think time that they need to process. So when I think of sweet Cammie, Britt's daughter, having to sit in front of a computer and watch something for 30 minutes, I don't know that I can do that right now. That's really
I can't do that right now.
Right, that's really hard. And so, and then
and I'm sure her intention was that they weren't going to watch it.
Right.
But in my parent brain, I'm like, here's your lesson, watch it. You know what I mean? Right. I didn't think about like, oh, she can't process that. Like,
Right. So we have to chunk, just like how we chunk in the classroom. Teach a little bit and then let them process. Teach a little bit and then let them process. And be explicit about that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you to pause in a minute, press the pause button, because I want you to think about all the different animals that are in a desert habitat. All right, push the pause and think about those animals. We have to be very explicit. Do we know if they're doing it? No, of course not. There's no way. Just like in the classroom, when we say, okay, I want you to think about, we don't know what they're actually thinking. But giving that think time, that processing time, and then having them come back to do something with it is really very powerful.
Yeah, and I mean, it reminds me of like my kids watch Daniel Tiger and they watch like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and even even the shows now for kids are like, hey, everybody, are you ready to go on this adventure with me? Okay, let's go. And like, so Cammie never responded. She's like looking at the TV, like, no, we're not talking. But Miles is like, yeah, let's go. Like, he is ready to do it. And so I think we do that in our lessons. So you can have your 30-minute Screencastify, but you have them pause and do something, or pause and think of something. And I think even giving like a list of things to think about. So I think that'll take the pressure off of parents even thinking like, I got to have them sit and engage in this 30-minute thing, and they're pushing back on me. Right. I think that'll help a lot. Is just the power of that pause button.
Well, and it's funny because I've been doing a lot of reading about remote learning, trying to wrap my own head around it.
Yeah, me
and
too.
Things that we would never do in the classroom, like talk for 30 minutes to kids without stopping, we're doing in remote learning. And so think, what works in my classroom? Giving them think time, giving them time to get materials together. Those things need to be happening on the remote learning too.
Well, and if the teacher says, stop, go get these things, come back, the parent's not needed. Because the kid knows the direction. You know what I mean? It wasn't like we ran through and all of a sudden now we're making paper triangles to like make a trapezoid or something. So I think getting those lessons out where it's very specific and they pause very often, I think would really help students. Vicki is over here saying, I talk to my TV all the time and now it's normal to talk to your device. Like, or good teaching is good, still good teaching. Like, let's not forget those practices. As we were talking, I'm trying to monitor the chat, and somebody said something about virtual, MJ, virtual hugs. And she said, I shared our school virtual hugs, and I think it was helpful for all my students. I cried myself as it hit me that some of my colleagues are not returning next year, and I won't be able to say goodbye to them correctly. And so they talked about virtual hugs. Can you share more about that? And she said they just made a video. But then Suzanne said that they're doing a video, teacher talent show.
Oh, how fun.
So that's fun. And
if you're talented like Suzanne, it's fun.
Right? I feel like,
I
don't know. I'd be doing something on TikTok because I'm like obsessed. It's bad. People, it's bad. Okay. And then she also said that MJ said, my parents are understanding the necessity of our daily class meetings. So yeah, I think if maybe you can get that out to parents somehow, that it's important for those kids to get on, if they can, to the daily class meetings, so that you can do that SEL, right? Then that helps the whole family kind of get into a routine anyways. And I think last time in our last broadcast, we talked about having a schedule and having your parents know what your schedule is. That's super important for the kids and the parents. And I think, we just keep trying things. I mean, this is new. We've never done professional growth like a live stream. And, I think parents just need, Suzanne, I just like my whole brain just went to Suzanne's comment. This week I was mortified that a parent of one of my kindergarten students suggested that I start sending out PowerPoints instead of what I do. No, you're good. That is like on the top things I have read is please don't use Screencastify to just go through your lecture PowerPoint. Please don't do that. That's not what that's for. Screencastify or Loom is really for tutorials, right? It's really for walking your kids through what you want them to do on the assignment. So you might have the assignment up and you're walking them through it. What we need to do more of is hit the pause button in those tutorials.
Absolutely.
And let okay, here's the information, pause, write this down in your notes. Here's the information, pause, do a little sketch note off to the side so you're, I don't know, do something. Okay. Vicky says don't listen to them, Suzanne.
I definitely don't listen to them, Suzanne. Yeah. And I wanted Megan's question, how would you suggest? Yeah. And Vicky answered it. And this is an issue all the time, right? You have a teacher who's like, oh no, I don't have kids work in groups, or oh no, I don't believe kids should talk to each other, or what do you do? If somebody's not going to push the pound button, what do you do? I loved Vicky's answer, that whole, this has really worked, and here's why I'm doing it as a good thing. And I like Vicky's comment up there. Now, you don't tell your doctor how to treat you. Actually, I have seen some people do that, but let's not even go there. We need to help each other right now because we're all at different places with what we're doing. So I depend on my team to say, hey, Wendy, if you do this, it'll make it better for that. And I'm like, oh, like I had no idea. Britt told me to put a live chat out on Facebook today to remind y'all. I'm like, Britt, I don't know what that is. I learned something new today with it. And so reaching out to people who are struggling, checking with our teammates is so important anytime, but everything is exacerbated right now.
I think so, yeah. I think all of these ideas are great on how to keep that balance, right? I think parents right now, they're easily just inundated with their normal parenting duties, plus the teaching duties, right? I saw something funny on Facebook was like, I literally packed up my kids' stuff and put in a suitcase and sent them next door. And they said, why are you sending them here? And they said, this is your new foreign exchange student. Like, I'm done.
Right.
Okay. I thought that was hilarious. Like, people are like, can we send them back? Like,
right. Or where's the substitute? Yeah. What's the number to call a substitute teacher?
I hope they don't have this teacher again next year. Like,
right.
Parents, we love you. Teacher parents, we love you too, because we know you're trying to teach and parent teach. And also, Yeah, and just also I think just them trying to work from home. I mean, my husband and I are both working from home now, and it is crazy trying to balance the kids and working from home and keeping everybody safe. So, check on those SEL things for yourself,
Yeah.
and for your students.
So MJ says that she's created an SEL section of her Google Classroom. I think that is a wonderful, wonderful idea, because not all parents know what to do.
Yeah.
And so, Vicki mentioned earlier about the colleague. If we approach it as help, not you have to do this, you have to know that.
I can tell
But
Wendy what to do.
right, right. This could be helpful, or your child might appreciate it if. And so, MJ, I think that's, if I were a parent, I would be just thrilled to pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Danny just says, I just call it our Bassett circus. Join the fun. This is what's happening right now. I'm doing my best to share with you guys what's happening in my house, what's happening with me teaching with my own kiddos. I think that helps me actually feel productive, and I have that helps me socially and emotionally. So I think finding what is going to help you guys feel that way. Again, I think a lot of teachers, I was just going to say this. I think a lot of teachers are feeling guilty for putting more time into their students rather than their own children's learning. Yes, I think that's so true. I mean, throw a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old in the mix, and it's like,
or twins.
I mean, I don't know if anybody follows me on my personal Instagram, but literally yesterday, my son found a foam die and he was kicking it around the house. And this was our game, was for him to tell me the number that was on the die while my daughter was working. He thought it was the best thing ever. Literally, my husband was like, what is he doing? I go, I don't know, but he's just counting and it's learning, and he's throwing things, which is awesome for a 3-year-old boy. And, we're just having to find ways to keep everybody balanced, and I know it's super hard. And Wendy and I, we love you guys. We think you
so much,
worlds of you, and that we know that this is a struggle. We have both cried over this
a lot,
and that's okay. You just need to be the best teacher, mom, parent, whoever you are, dad, that you can be, right? I mean, what did you say, Wendy? Good enough right now is good enough.
Good enough is good enough.
Huh? Yep. And if
I put an article on Facebook a few days ago that said arriving is the goal. Just
I love that. I reposted it. It was so good. Yeah.
It was so real. The goal is to arrive.
Yep.
To land from this and still be at least relatively in one piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think, you know what, just keep going, do the best you can to balance all those things. We're hoping that maybe some of those social emotional things that we talked about earlier will help you. Just even if you knew of SEL, but you didn't really do a deep dive, maybe you can go and look at that. And all that will be in our resource bank on the hub. But I think right now we're striving. Oh, Vicki said it perfectly. We're not striving for perfection right now. We're striving for progress, right? We really, we're just trying to progress through this time and learn as much as we can. Don't feel like you have to use every single tool that, your principal's probably like, ooh, use Flipgrid and this and that. And no, who are you as a teacher at your core? Figure out one tool that maybe works for you and then use it.
And go for it.
And that's it.
Yeah. And always, always, always remember that we are here to support you. Mm-hmm. You can always get a hold of us. When people call me, they say, I'm so sorry to bother you. And I'm like, it's 1:00 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. This is my job. I'm here to help you. So please reach out to us if we can assist you.
Yeah.
And thank you to all of those who've been texting me while we've been on here.
You're managing that too. That's a lot to manage.
Not really very well, but thank you.
Well, Vicky, she's the boss lady, and she says, "Be the best version of you today, whatever that is." And I think, you know what? That's what we have to remember. And I want you guys, I think that was our final thoughts for the day, was just be the best you that you can be right now. And, there is no right way to balance. In the post I said, how do we write, what's the right way to balance?
Yeah.
There's not one, right?
Yeah.
You
And
got to
be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
Be patient with yourself and gentle with yourself.
And others around you. I mean, I have been snippy. My husband, we've all been snippy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, everybody is at their limit. And I think you just be patient with yourself and others around you. Even those people that direct messaged me that were angry, I stopped. I thought, and then I decided, hey, they're in a they might be in a place that they need me to just be like, look, I'm sorry. I did not mean to offend you. So again, as always, if you're feeling alone or isolated, please reach out to us on social media. We would love to hear from you. You can direct message us through Facebook and Instagram. And then you can also always direct message me through any of my social media platforms. I'm at the Brits. I can't even say my own.
The Bits of Brit.
It's right here. It's scrolling so people can see it. Feel free to reach out to me, even if you just want to vent.
Right. Yep. I've been in a lot of venting phone calls, and that's absolutely okay. Most of you have my phone number. Text me first, and then we can talk.
Yep. And again, and then if you just feel like you really are struggling, that Woebot app also that both Wendy and I use is helpful. It's free, and it might just be maybe what you need just to get over that hump right now, as we're feeling that tension of, some of us have been in the house for, I counted out, this is my eighth week in the house. And so I think maybe some of us are feeling that tension. Yeah. So we're definitely a little bit over our hour mark. Thank you, Miss Wendy, for coming on with me today.
To you, everybody.
It was amazing, and I appreciate it. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to say?
No, just I love everybody, and we're just gonna have a big old party when all this is done, and it'll all be okay. We've got this.
Thanks, Wendy, for coming on today. Again, guys, if you really just enjoy these, or you feel like you know other people who would enjoy coming on and just listening and maybe getting some ideas, even if they're not in our district, go ahead and feel free to click the subscribe button. It should be right around here. And then that little bell that will also remind you when anything new is posted to our YouTube, whether that is a tutorial or a new live stream that's going to come out. And feel free to share these with your colleagues. They do automatically go right onto the YouTube page. As soon as these are done, they are all recorded. I am Britt Bingold from Gilbert Professional Growth and Development. Be safe. Have a wonderful weekend. And thank you guys all for coming and listening. We appreciate you all. And take a breath, find your balance. And we hope to see you next Thursday, 1 o'clock, same place. Thanks.